I'm Francis Dearnley, and this is Ukraine, the latest. Today, in a world exclusive, we report how Donald Trump is preparing to hand over Ukraine's occupied territories as his team prepares to fly to Moscow to present the plan to Putin. Meanwhile, the Russian president claims his country's army cannot be held back as Russia experiences one of the heaviest drone raids of the war. Then we turn to Kyiv, where the offices of the head of President Zelensky's office, Andriy Yermak, are dramatically being raided by anti-corruption officers. And later, at a time when leaders talk about gifting land to the Kremlin, we bring you rare testimony of what it's really like to live under Russian control in those regions, and what many more millions may soon be condemned to endure. Just before we were about to publish this episode, a trusted contact texted me to say that Andriy Yermak, the head of President Zelensky's office and one of the chief negotiators in the peace talks, had suddenly resigned after the raids we report in the episode you're about to hear. We'll be analysing the fallout of this in a future discussion, but suffice to say, it will have profound ramifications. So do stay with us.
Bravery takes you through the most unimaginable hardships to finally reward you with victory.
Russia does not want peace.
Mit unserer Hilfe für die Ukraine auch unsere Freiheit und unsere europäischen Werte.
If I'm president, I will have that war settled in one day, 24 hours.
We are with you, not just today or tomorrow, but for 100 years.
Nous ne pouvons pas, comme Européens, laisser gagner la Russie en Ukraine.
Nobody's going to break us. We're strong. We're Ukrainians.
It's Friday, the 28th of November, 3 years and 279 days since the full-scale invasion began. And today, after the updates, I'm joined by Anna, not her real name, a young woman who lived in and then escaped the occupied territories. But first, the major military and political updates from the past 24 hours. Russia is ready to fight until the last Ukrainian dies. Those were the words of Putin in his first major speech since the leak of the US-Russia 28-point peace plan last week. In remarks that reverberated across Europe, the Russian president insisted Ukraine must surrender territory, claiming his army is practically impossible to hold back. Some people demand to keep on fighting until the last Ukrainian. Russia is ready for that, he said during his trip to Kyrgyzstan. If Ukrainian forces leave the territories they hold, then we will stop combat operations. If they don't, then we will achieve it by military means. He added the new proposals negotiated with Ukraine and its European allies could form the basis for future agreements, but then dismissed Ukraine's leadership as illegitimate and said it was senseless to sign anything with them. Meanwhile, the Telegraph understands that President Trump is poised to recognise Russia's control over Crimea and other occupied Ukrainian territories to secure a deal to end the war, sending his peace envoy Steve Witkoff and son-in-law Jared Kushner to make the direct offer to Putin in Moscow. The plan to recognise territory, which breaks US diplomatic convention, is likely to go ahead despite concerns among Ukraine's European allies. One well-placed source told us this. It's increasingly clear the Americans don't care about the European position. They say the Europeans can do whatever they want. Meanwhile, in yet another blow to Ukraine and Europe, Hungary's Viktor Orban arrived in Moscow this morning, ostensibly, in his words, to ensure his country's energy supply. Diplomatic sources suggest his method of doing this is, with Kremlin approval, buying out the shares of oil refineries in Eastern Europe owned by Gazprom and Lukoil. Hence why his foreign minister has embarked on a diplomatic tour of Serbia, Bulgaria and Romania. The other big political news of the day, however, is in Ukraine, where Ukrainian anti-corruption agents have raided the office of Zelensky's closest political ally and head of Kyiv's negotiating team, Andriy Yermak. The National Anti-Corruption Bureau, NABU, and the Specialised Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, SAPO, confirmed they were conducting investigative actions at the head of the office of the President of Ukraine. And officers were seen storming into the government quarter early this morning, with Yermak confirming authorities were searching his apartment and saying, "For my part, I fully cooperate." Suffice to say, this snowballing corruption scandal amid a tense time in negotiations risks derailing not only those talks, but further and perhaps fatally weakening Kyiv's position. It's understood that Trump and Vance have been pressuring Kyiv into signing the peace agreement because they sense weakness from this scandal. As we discussed yesterday, Yermak is the second most powerful figure in the state and the most unpopular man in Ukraine. Zelensky came under intense pressure to remove him preemptively following the recent revelations, but he stuck with him in a decision many criticised at the time, including Kyiv's allies abroad, many believing Yermak is a serious problem, both in his alleged way of manoeuvring his allies into positions of influence and the poor relations he has with many key figures in the US. One European diplomat quoted in the press said Zelensky needs to clean house, and an MP from his own party told the Financial Times today pressure has accumulated in society and now can explode at any time. Zelensky may soon have no choice but to remove him, but in the worst possible circumstances. It felt like this was inevitable and explains why the president's office was so keen to weaken the power of the anti-corruption bodies, claiming they were tools of Russian influence. Given this and the febrile atmosphere, Oliver Carroll of The Economist writes, "As it was put to me by someone close to the investigations, it's now a case of who arrests who first." A major problem for Zelensky, as I mentioned, is that Yermak is one of the lead negotiators in these so-called peace talks, and just gave an interview to Simon Schuster in The Atlantic, where he said, for as long as Zelensky remains president, he will not agree to give up land in exchange for peace. The constitution prohibits this. He then went on, commenting before the raids on the investigation. The pressure is enormous. The case is fairly loud, and there needs to be an objective and independent investigation without political influence. Meanwhile, Trump's Thanksgiving deadline for Kyiv to agree to a peace plan or face being cut off from military intelligence support passed yesterday, apparently without consequence. In a thinly veiled response to Trump's charge that Kyiv had shown zero gratitude for American support, Zelensky posted this: "Wishing a happy and blessed Thanksgiving to President Donald Trump, First Lady Melania Trump, and the entire American people. We deeply appreciate all the support, which has saved so many lives and helps us defend our independence each day." Meanwhile, in Europe, there's no evidence of a substantive response to recent events. The most significant story is that President Macron has confirmed a limited form of military service will be reintroduced in France in response to growing fears of a future confrontation with Russia. More than 25 years after conscription was phased out, the plan will see young men and women volunteering for a paid 10 months of military training. "The only way to avoid danger is to prepare for it," Macron said while announcing the plan at an infantry base. "We need to mobilising the nation to defend itself, to be ready and to remain respected. In this uncertain world, where might triumphs over right, war is in the present tense." Initially, numbers will be restricted to 3,000 next year, but this should rise to 50,000 by 2035. More troubling is the news out of Belgium, the chief blockers, at least publicly, of unfreezing Russian state assets and using them to fund the war. Its Prime Minister has told Ursula von der Leyen that her new proposal for a reparations loan is fundamentally wrong, calling on the EU to raise €45 billion in fresh debt to support Ukraine instead. Further, he claims using frozen Russian assets to help Ukraine could jeopardise the peace process. That will make very troubling reading for Kyiv as we approach that key meeting in December, where it was hoped the assets will be unfrozen and given to Ukraine. It seems that some want to keep it on the table as a carrot to the Russians in these negotiations. But what if they go nowhere? It will be yet another gift to Moscow. But ending in the military realm, it was a much quieter night for Ukraine, with only 72 attack drones and 1 ballistic missile fired by Russia. The Air Force claims 63 were shot down, but at least one 60-year-old man was killed in the Dnipropetrovsk region after Russia dropped a bomb on his house. His 52-year-old wife survived, but has serious injuries. For once, it was Russia which bore the brunt of one of the largest drone raids of the war. We don't yet know the precise numbers, but Moscow claims to have shot down 136 drones, mostly over the Rostov region. Explosions were reported in several cities, including Taganrog, Smolensk, and Saratov. Air raid sirens also sounded in the Black Sea coastal city of Novorossiysk, where there were reports a ship may have been targeted. On the front lines, fairly minimal movement, with no sign of further Russian advances in Pokrovsk and Minorad. The ISW claims that since Moscow's troops entered the city for the first time on July 31st, they've advanced an average of 0.12 kilometres per day. Yet still, Pokrovsk holds. The Washington think tank also emphasises that recent Russian gains across the front have been, quote, largely opportunistic, exploiting seasonal weather conditions. Yet in worrying evidence that the clause in the 28-point plan, which would stop war crime prosecutions when the war ends, might already be impacting behaviour on the battlefield, there are reports that at least 5 Ukrainian prisoners of war were executed by Russian soldiers amid a chaotic withdrawal in Zaporizhia Oblast. The enemy captured the soldiers in the forest, lined them up and shot them after interrogation, Deep State said on Telegram. Another unarmed Ukrainian soldier who surrendered in Donetsk was also allegedly executed. Further, Russia continues to expand its control over occupied territories. A new report, cited by the Kyiv Independent, highlights the coercion of civilians into joining the Russian military, including at least 63 Ukrainian POWs. In addition, 500 schools in these regions have been fully absorbed into the Russian educational system, with mandatory propaganda classes coordinated by the FSB. This forms part of a wider effort that also includes military training centres for Ukrainian children from the territories, such as the Warrior Centre we've talked about before. That leads me on to the main subject of today's episode. At a time when countries talk glibly about giving territories to Moscow, I felt it important that we heard a voice from someone who's seen firsthand what that means for the millions who live in them. Anna, which is not her real name, is in her mid-20s and grew up in a village near Kherson in southern Ukraine, one still under occupation today, despite the city being liberated in November 2022. Before the full-scale invasion, her world was small. She'd never travelled abroad, nor had she even visited Kyiv. Then the Russians came and, as you'll hear, moved systematically to seize control of the region, with threats, the kidnapping of children, the burning of books, and the execution of civilians. Yet even under such pressure, as Anna saw firsthand, ordinary people resisted, sometimes through acts of heroism and sabotage. After months of living under occupation, Anna's family urged her to flee during a rare window when Russian forces permitted small groups, mostly women claiming to have relatives in Ukraine, to leave. That journey meant waiting for weeks at a checkpoint, enduring intimidation, harassment, and uncertainty of whether she would be allowed to pass. She begins her rare testimony by remembering the day the invasion began, the day the Russians arrived.
I remember it was morning, 4 or 5 a.m., and I was sleeping in my bed at my parents' house. Someone called me and it's like, oh, the war just started. They are like going from the Crimea side to Kherson. They will be here in a few hours. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Then I was starting reading news, all the videos from Zelensky, like, oh, we have a war situation in the country, that Putin, he decided to do a special operation here. So we were shocked, but everyone in Ukraine, we were thinking that it will last only for a few weeks, that it will be sorted just because, I don't know, maybe they will go back to Russia or something. So we're just waiting when it will be over.
Did you hear any sounds of the fighting, which obviously wouldn't have been happening immediately, but did you have any sense that the country was at war?
No, it was first day, really quiet. I just seen our Ukrainian guys, they were riding tanks. Yeah, I just heard the machines, it was somewhere far, but I seen them lights in the sky. It was dark. It was loud only for the first 3 days, in the nighttime. So you can hear the shots, you can hear that something is going on, but somewhere far, but it's still close, so you can hear it.
And you say you saw the Ukrainian forces on tanks. What were their expressions? What was the mood like?
Their faces, when they were so sad, they don't know what's gonna happen. They understand that if we are in a war condition now, that means that Kyiv, they will protect Kyiv just because it's Kyiv, not Kherson. And the situation on the south is more I would say strange, just because they are more not concerned, but they were thinking probably what's going to happen to them in them 24 hours. Maybe they will die. Maybe everything will be fine. So I just say that to my parents, that I seen their faces and make me sad.
At what point do you see your first Russians?
I remember it was the first week of invasion, just because everyone was sitting in the house. They didn't know what's going to happen. And maybe after 3 days or 4 days, They cut the city. So that means that they were in our village on a second or third day. And I remember when we were driving for the main road, they put a few checkpoints, maybe 3 or 4 of them. I seen their faces too. They were like different. They were acting different, dressed different, and they were scared for the first time when I seen them, just because they didn't know what to expect from us as well, as from civilians. Maybe we will kill them, or maybe we are crazy, or maybe we are acting like people from crazy countries, because they are news telling them something that we are like crazy people and we are eating children. They had a different opinion about us. So when they started like turning everything off, they turned off the radio. So they put it in a Russian line. So the radio was everything about Russia, that Russia is good, Ukrainian is bad. After that, they changed all the telephone lines. So if you don't have Russian SIM card, if you are refusing to buy a Russian SIM card, you don't have a connection. I mean, you can't call anyone. And then they turned off the internet. They connected it to the Crimea, like Russian internet. So just because Russia, they are under occupation, that means that Instagram, that means that WhatsApp and YouTube, Google, it's all banned because of the sanctions, because war, they were like putting too many sanctions when the war just like a big invasion just started. And Ukrainians, they were like under them sanctions as well, and we weren't able to use anything. But that happened after. Before, when they were like turning everything off, we had no light, no internet, no connection, no radio, nothing. I mean, I had an old radio and I tried to climb up the hill, like to go on the top of the roof of the place where no one is living, just to get a connection there. And I was trying to move that radio just and I was walking from the side to side to catch the the line, so I'm able to hear at least something, like maybe there's still Ukrainians talking, or it's like Ukrainian news, what's going on, I mean, in the world, just because here you are like living in a hole. And I remember my evenings there, we had no light as well, like no electricity, and my dad, he was using a flashlight, and we were playing chess with him. My mom, she was reading, and we were just like in the same room thinking about what is going on, which is horrible. I mean, when you don't have anything, like, I don't want to be part of Russia, we don't want them. The day when they will understand that, Ukraine will be fine forever. But they cannot understand that no one wants them.
And were people in the village communicating with them, or were, in a sense, you were all in your houses and then the Russians are outside at their checkpoints?
Yep, just because we are a Soviet Union country, there was people, I will not say a lot of them, but there was a people like, oh, that's nice that you came, we were waiting for you here. Usually it's like old women, old men, like they were unhappy and they were poor just because they were doing nothing before, they were drinking or something. So now they have no pension and stuff like this. And they're like, oh, Ukraine, they are not paying us. So here you are, like, that's nice that you came, and we'll be more happy with you here. And of course, they were like talking to them. Oh, cigarettes, you want cigarettes? Soldiers, they don't have cigarettes. They were just robbing civilians. Oh, if you have cigarettes, I will shoot you if you not give me your cigarettes or something like that, or food, just because I won't smoke. And of course, they had rubles and everything were there in hryvnia at that time. So yeah, civilians, they were talking to them, but not them civilians who will actually hate Russia. So they were just like driving past and trying not to look even in their eyes. There was lots of them too. So Kherson is actually not the Russian place. And even if people like mostly speak Russian there, that doesn't mean that we want them there. So I just wanted to make it clear for everyone. But there is people, of course, like in every, I think, region, like a small percentage, but there exists because we were connected before till the 1991.
So a minority of people, older people, welcome the Russians. A majority of those in the area do not. Those that didn't, how are they reacting with the Russians? Are they talking with them and saying you shouldn't be here? Or are they just not interacting? Were they concerned for their safety?
I will tell you about the situation when they just came, because now the situation is different, because you can't say anything against them. But before, of course, there was lots of people like were standing, they will cross the road and they'll be standing on the road just to stop tanks with nothing in their hands. Like Russians, they are driving around, and people, they will be just like standing like next to each other, just trying to make them like feel horrible, or to feel that they are doing something wrong, or to change their minds, maybe just because they probably thought that we need saving, that they need to save us from Kyiv. Even my family, they had a conversation with them asking, like, what are you actually doing here? We don't want you here. And the guy says, of course, in Russian, you all speak Russian here. I mean, it's so nice here as well. And everything what we heard from the Russian government, that you are actually surviving here, that is so shit here. You want us to save you, that you hate Ukraine. So that's why we came. So the conversation, they were like this, but I think it was like, if I can say in brackets, normal Russian, because usually they are talking to you like you are an animal, you are nothing. Most of them, they know that they're doing something wrong. They're just doing that for money. Or some of them, they were in prison, and Putin is like, oh, I'm going to pay you if you will go to Ukraine, if you will fight, and you will not going to be in the prison anymore. And I will give you money. I'll give money for your family. So they're doing that just because of their own reasons.
Were any civilians killed that you know of?
Yeah. Just because I'm not from the city, but I know that there is too many people, even people that I know, they died there. If we are talking about the place where I was living, yes, and the reason was because they're trying to resist. They were trying to do something, and then the Russians, they came, and they're like, who was doing that? And of course, you will tell the truth. And it's like that guy, like he's living next to my door or something, and they'd be like, okay, and they went to his house, for example, and killed him. So people, they were like scared after to do something.
Now, you said that you thought they might only be there for a few weeks. You were trapped in your village for 9 months. What happened over the course of that period? What changed from those initial interactions with Russian soldiers as they began to bed in and control the territory and govern the territory?
When they came, I was trapped in the place where I was living with my parents for 3 months. And then I decided to move to, at that time, occupied Kherson, just because there was my sister there. And I had my studies still. And I remember that logistics, it didn't work at that time. We didn't have enough food in our stores. It's a village. There is not too many stores. And I have still pictures of the empty shops, grocery shops. People are like, well, we're messaging in a group, if you have this, so I have this. If you will give me this, I can make bread and we can share. In them 3 months, the people, they were like driving around already. They weren't that scared, doing things that they were doing before. They still didn't know what's gonna happen next. I mean, they were just like scrolling news. And at that time, it was still okay to watch the Ukrainian news, and Russians, they were like okay with that just because it's only 3 months. Now it's like crazy. If you will say something in Ukrainian, like you will have big problems. Like they were trying to put their flags everywhere. They didn't care about the people. They just trying to show that Russia took Kherson region. Like no one and nothing matters. Just like, oh, we are here. So Zelensky, you can watch this, which is also stupid. And then only they were like trying to change the currency there and the school that like they burned all our Ukrainian books with actually history books, for example, when in our history books, it says like the truth, what's going on in the Soviet Union times and what is like Russia to Ukraine and what's going on in Ukraine from 2014. They don't have this in Russia.
You were telling me about a journey a member of your family took you around to see Russian HIMARS and to see tanks.
Yes, the member of my family, she was like, I think there is like Russian tanks like somewhere near. We need to check it out. So we sent in the car and we went there, and there was like no Russian troops. There was just like few tanks, and the big machine, I think it was a HIMARS. that flew up them rockets.
The Russian equivalent of HIMARS. Yeah, I should have been clearer.
And we came there, and there was parts of clothes, destroyed clothes. I think Ukrainians, they blew up, they tried to destroy them. Maybe they died, I don't know, but there was no people. And the member of my family, like, we need to destroy them because eventually if they will come back, they will be able to use them. So we came back. We made a homemade bomb just because someone from my family is like an electrician. And they were like able to create a homemade bomb, something like what can burn or blew up. It was something really small. It's like everything what like the maximum that we could do. And we used that, and we went back there all together, and we put that thing like a mini bomb inside of every machine that they had there. And then we just ran over, and it started burning, and there was like not splashes, like flashes, if I can use that word. We were like looking at the smoke after when we came back. It was like a big smoke. Watching this smoke for hours, I think, was the best thing ever. So this is the thing that I'm really proud of.
So then your parents tell you it's not safe for you here, you need to leave. Where do you start in trying to leave the occupied territories?
It wasn't like a big plan. Every person that I know at that time, like all my friends, people from school, I heard that they're like, that person just left occupied territories, this one left occupied territories. I'm like, okay. And in the end, I was just the one from my friends who just like actually still here just because I have a strong connection with my parents, like really close. That's why I didn't want to leave. And of course, everyone at that time, it was only 9 months when I was like there, not even a year. And we were still thinking that something gonna change, that like Ukraine will take the territories back. Many months after, Ukrainians, they actually take the Kherson city back, which was like the happiest day in my life, I think.
Tell me about that, because I was going to ask about what the reaction was when Kherson was liberated. What was your memories of that?
At that time, I was in a different place, a completely different place. And I was with the different people that I met like after when I moved. We were driving and I was like reading news, and everyone from my like the region, they were like started messaging me, oh, you seen this, you seen it? Like, I'm watching, what do you mean? And I went like to reading news, and like Ukrainians, they took this part, Ukrainians, they took, and they are getting closer to the Kherson city. Oh my goodness, maybe Ukrainians, they will take the Kherson back. And I'm like reading, and there was like too many videos and too many photos of Ukrainian soldiers with all the civilians, and they were like so happy. They were in tears. They were like hugging every one of them. They were like screaming, finally you are here, which is crazy. And at that time, like people, they were like screaming, oh, we were waiting for you so long. And now when I'm watching, I'm going back to them videos and I'm watching them again and again. And at that time, it was like so nice, and I'm happy. And I'm happy that we have our city back. But at that time when we're like, people are saying that, oh, we were waiting for you so long, and which is actually not that long if you will look at the situation now. And if you will check the map, which territories are like still under occupation, what makes me sad. So, and there's still people who cannot leave their houses, and they don't want to be a part of Russia, but they cannot do anything about it. They have no possibility, no car, or they are too old, or things like this.
So let's resume from the story of how you left then. You said that you didn't really have a plan, but what was the process? Talk us through what happened.
So at that time we had a few, not the checkpoints, like cities, villages, where you can go through to the different side, like to Ukraine. And we still had the like gray zone, the possibility to move from occupied territories to Ukraine. Now we have no access, like we cannot cross. I moved in September 2022. I remember Putin, he was signing like a law. It says that all the occupied territories, they're like Russia now officially. So that was the point when everything changed. I was sitting with my relatives at that time, and my mom, she was saying that it's not safe here and you are losing all your like months and years. And we were like all posting, the people who like stay there, we were like all posting that we are losing the summer, another summer or another like day when we can like do something crazy, but we are stuck. At that time, my family, they didn't want to leave just because too many people, they have houses there. They put like 20 years of their life to build something, and they have their relatives, they have their parents like who are actually old. So it was like hard for them. And I was the first one who moved after my sister. And and then just randomly my mate from school, she messaged me and she's like, oh, my parents, she was at that time in Warsaw, she was like in the same occupied territory, but she decided to move like long time ago from the beginning, and her parents, they were still there in the same village. And she's like, oh, we are like they decided to move, so they will have a big car. If you want to join them, there is a available seat for you. And I just say to my mom, but I didn't know that I'll be going like traveling with them. And my mom, she's like, you are going with them? I'm like, I'm not going with them. I just say like that they will like move as well. I'm just like, I'm giving you gossips. I mean, and she's like, no, you are packing your things now and you are going with them, just because I think for that time it was like the best option for her. So she's like, she didn't want me to travel with different like people. Like, I don't know the people, and they will like be with me in the same car. But there was a possibility. They were just like, we had a big group, and people, they were like messaging, oh, I'm alone and I have like a cat and I have a bag. Can someone take me if they have a big car? So that was the best option for my mom, just because she knew who are they. I said, okay, then I messaged my mate and I said, okay, the answer is yes. It's like 3 days before I was actually on the road already. And I packed my stuff, and it was the worst. It was the like 4 a.m. or something. We say bye-bye to each other. We hugged each other for the last time. And I didn't cry just because I was with the people in the car. Like, I know them, but it's still like we are not best friends or something. But I'm not crying in front of people if I'm not comfortable with them. We were like driving from the place where I was living to the checkpoint, where it's like the Kyiv is, and I thought that I will be in a different city, like in Ukraine, in 2 days. I had a little bit food with me, and I had some money, and I'm like, that's okay. So I wasn't lucky, because before they were able to leave the occupied territories just in 2 days. Like, they're standing on a queue, and there was like, of course, too many cars. That why it took so long for them. I was waiting there for weeks just to get out of that hole. There was like too many Russians who actually were like talking to us like we're animals, like, oh, you stink, you need to go. Not to me, like directly, just to everyone. You stink, like, why are you standing here for weeks? You had no shower, I can smell this. But yeah, so they were like the military guys, they were like coming with the list of the people. And it says like the surname approved, surname not approved, surname approved, like people who actually are able to move. So he was standing in the center, and there was like, of course, when we see the guy, military guy, coming to us, everyone is so happy, and we're like, oh, maybe I will have a chance today to move to the different side. And we were waiting for him. He was reading all the surnames and who are able to move, and people, they were like so fast going to the car and trying to be the first one in the queue there to get away. I mean, on the checkpoint, they were checking all your stuff. I'll not go into details, but I were waiting too long, like more than 2 weeks, just to be on that list. And the day when I was on the list, I spent my birthday there. I was in the car and it was cold.
When people are being kept somewhere for that length of time, many people must have got sick. I mean, what were the circumstances that you were seeing?
Yeah, there was too many people like on a different age, different cars. Like, I was lucky just because I was in a big car and was like kind of warm there. And there was like people like they were trying to help their relatives, like old granddad or old grandma, and their cars, they were small. They didn't know that they would be stuck in for weeks there. One woman, she gave birth in a car. And Russians, when like people, they were like asking, oh, can she go to the hospital just because she can have problems? They said no. I remember one old man, he died there, and they said yes to move him from that place where we were waiting to I'm not sure if it was a hospital, but they brought a coffin from somewhere. I don't know. And they say that someone who will be like with him, with that man in the car, like you will be able to go on the other side later. I mean, if you will help us. And some like the family, they said, okay, we will go with you. We'll help you with that body. And Russians, they let them out.
How did you eventually get out?
I was on a list. I think after 2 weeks and a half, I got sick there, and I'm like, oh, what else can happen to me? I mean, I cannot wait anymore. And the guy came, and he was like, he spelled my name, and I'm like, finally. And the main thing I will tell you that if you are on a list and you are in a car with someone, they are not on a list, they are not able to drive a car, for example. The guy who's driving your car, even if you are on a list, you're not able still to leave the occupied territories. And on the next day, you are not even able, even you was on a list yesterday, you are not even able to move tomorrow. So you have one lucky day. No? Okay, then go back. I mean, some people, they were like, oh, can you take me in a car? If you are like also on the list, can you please take me? I mean, but there is no space. But I'm small, I'm tiny, like I will get rid of that dog or that, like we will try to sort things out, but please help me because it's like you're not able to cross the border, like the gray zone, just because there is mines everywhere. It's not possible. If you are dead, it's like a dead zone. So it's only a car that can help you. There was like right before when I was on a list that night, Russians, you have a word for that in English when there's like too many cars, they are driving together on the road. And there was them cars with the families, and Russians, they just decided to let out from the occupied territories. They were on a list and they kill everyone. They bombed them. They used their like missiles. We heard it was in the night. They were like moving in the night, and in the news it says that same people, I seen their faces. I mean, they were on the photo. Guess who took the photos? Of course, Russians. And they put it on the internet, and they say that, you see, you are trying to escape, and Ukrainians, they don't want you there. They are not waiting for you there. So they are just like trying to get rid of you. This is what they like. Them photos, they were in Russian use, not Ukrainian. Like, because we were checking everything there. Like, we were trying to read the Ukrainian news and Russian as well, just because it was too important when you was there at that time. Yeah, and when I was in the list, we got in the car and we got to the checkpoint, and they're also checking everything what's in your bag. They're checking everything, even your wallet. And they were like trying to make jokes. There's too many people in Ukraine. They are living together and they are married, but they don't have same surname. Just because I'm a wife, I don't want to have a husband surname. And they'll be like checking your passport, and it's like, are you sure you are married? Maybe he doesn't want you. Maybe she doesn't want you. Like, I mean, making them stupid jokes. Like, are you sure you like together and he's not cheating on you or something like this? It was like young guys, and they were like making dirty jokes, or there was too many situations when they were like taking young girls out of the car, like they were doing something to them, or they just can take you from the car, and the car that you was driving in, they will go without you just because, I mean, what can you say to the guy with the weapon? And I remember there was a guy, ex-military guy in Kyiv before we left. He tried to get an access to that piece of paper, and they found out that he was fighting before when the war started, 2014. They were keeping him in a basement, and he went back to the queue just to take his car, and his face was red, and he has bruises all over his body, he showed us. And he said, they just told me that I'm not able, never leave this occupied territory. I will be just here forever. But I mean, but they have all the list of people who are like fighting in 2014, because it's like our government buildings. No one were like in Kherson. I don't think that someone was like ready for war. So everyone was happy for me, and we were like crying. And then the police car, they met us there, and they're like, you need to follow this car. And all the cars, we were following one police car. We went to the place where you need to give all your details to Ukrainians. So they will be like tracking how many people like escaping, who, like what, like places, villages, and things like this. I was like, no, take all my data. I mean, you are Ukrainian. Like, I was so happy to see, like, I didn't like the police before, but now I'm, like, just because it's Ukrainians, like, I'm obsessed with all of you. And I was too skinny. Like, we looked so horrible just because we had no shower for all them weeks. And we went to the shop, and it was so funny just because almost for 1 year, I would say 9 months, it's all like, it feels like 1 year. You see the Ukrainian prices, the hryvnia is everywhere. You see the ice cream that you was eating all this like time. And you are like, you are thinking that you do not appreciate the things that you have actually like. Now that you're able to eat this, you're able to buy this, you're able to go there. And when I went to the shop, I'm like, Coke, there is a Coke. We had no Coke for all this time just because Coke, they decided not to selling their products like Snickers, all them like big brands. They said no to Russia, and like Russia, they don't have anything. So they were just like trying to sell their disgusting like candies, something similar to Fanta or Coke, but it's not actually Coke. Products in a shop from Iraq, Iran, or places like Afghanistan, and I don't know where they are getting it from, like Belarus, Kazakhstan. So to see Ukrainian products, it was like the biggest thing for me. And I remember the guy, and he seen me when I like was waiting until that woman will scan all my things that I want to buy, the food, finally. And the guy, he was standing behind me. He's like, I just moved from the occupied territories just because that shop like too close to the gray zone. And I'm like, And he's like, if there's a chance that you need help, I mean, I can give you money. And just because I'm stubborn, I said, I don't need any money, but thank you. People that I were with in the car, they say that we cannot stay here because it's not safe. But we were so tired. We wanted to have a sleep in a bed, not in the car. We want to have a shower. And they're like, no, we are not staying in a hotel here. We need to drive. And we were driving all the way to one city. I can say that. It was kind of safe there. And it was the first stop where we had the possibility to stay in a hotel. Just because I didn't have enough money with me. I mean, I had just like pennies, if you will compare to, convert it to, for example, pounds. Like people from other countries, they will be just like laughing what I had for my future with me in a pocket, like in that time. And then we was like driving was like one stop. The final stop was in a city where we say bye-bye to each other just because they had their own thing. I had my own plans. And in a few days, I decided I didn't know what I'm gonna do just because I was living only in my like region. I never like traveled like different regions. Yeah, maybe like neighbors. I was never going abroad before. Yeah, I decided to leave the country, but not because I hate Ukraine or something. I love Ukraine, but I thought it was the best thing for me to go there. So I'm able to earn more money just to help my family. That's it. Just because of the money, because the country, if we have a war, of course, our currency will go down, and it's not kind of like the logic isn't there to be there earning money.
Now, as you say, that route out is now firmly shut. You are still in communication with your family in the occupied territories. And I have to ask, what's the situation like there today? What do you hear from them?
There is not like, I can't go into the details just because I don't know them, because they are not able to tell me, and we are not able to discuss these things because you need to be really careful. They are tracking everything. And I know that there is a law that everyone should have a Russian passport now. And if you don't have Russian passport till the 10th of September, they will just deport you. But deportation for Russians, that means just a jail, just because they will not be like so generous. Oh, here's the car, we will deport you to Ukraine. Where you want, Poland, Ukraine. I mean, this is not the way they are acting. They are horrible people. And that's a jail. And the problem is, okay, we still have a possibility. And if you're not following like the rules that they want you to follow, I don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, the worst thing that you can think about, I I don't know, they will force you, or they will just kill you if you will say a wrong word. Or, I mean, you can't just be sitting at home with the Russian passport and do nothing if you just say no, because there is no, they don't have this word no in Russia. You're just doing everything what the government will tell you.
And when do you think you'll be able to see your family again? Do you think you'll ever be able to go home?
I think in my head that before I didn't want to think about it. I thought that Ukrainians, they will take the territories back. But now when I'm thinking about it, we need more resources. We need more help from all the countries. We need, I know that we are getting lots of support from everyone, but we are still not able to take them territories back. And it's so tough for all the Ukrainians, I think even for our president to do at least something, because there is pressure from everywhere, from people, they want one thing, from the other countries, they want another thing from him. So now I'm at that point when I think I'm not too much into politics. I'm trying not to go too deep because I'm getting sad. Because of my family, I wanna be close to them. I want to be able to see them. But I think that we will not take our territories back, at least now. In a different country, you are saying, "Oh, I'm tired of this war." You are tired of war. The people who are on occupied territories, they are tired. Even me, I'm not tired, just because I'm lucky to have my home. It still have a roof, so it's not destroyed. I'm lucky to have my parents. I can't say that I'm tired. I'm not in the front zone, front line. I'm not a soldier. So I don't like this sentence, I'm tired of the war. And I think when gonna finish, maybe there will be a system. There will be a way to visit someone, just because there is lots of Ukrainians and their families in occupied territories. And they will want to, for example, me, to visit them. So I think only in them terms, maybe. I'm not sure, but I don't know. I'm not sure when it's gonna happen. I'm getting sad every day, I'm crying every day. I'm not that person who's crying, but just because of my parents.
Well, thank you very much for talking us through that harrowing experience. It can't be easy to resurrect it in the detail that you have. I have one last question. We've talked many, many times on the podcast about the stolen children, so I'm not going to go into that. I just wonder, have you heard any specific examples of children being deported from the occupied territories, from your village, and moved to Russia?
Yes, I know from my village, just because we have Russian school now. If I'm a parent and I have a kid and he or she is 6 or 7 or something, and as a parent, I want to have my kid studying at home, so I will teach him. That's for example, for me, it's the best decision. Then he's going to Russian school. And if I will do that, they will just come to me and they will be like, if you don't want to to let your kid to study in a school, and they're doing that just because there is no one wants to study in a Russian school, and they just want to put a pressure on people. So at least someone will be going to school, just because they need to show something on the news that people are actually happy to go to school, because it's Russia now. It's more it's better for, they think it's better. So they will come to your house, and if you have a kid, they will say, you don't want your kid to go to Russian school. That means that we will take the rights, a parent rights from you, and you're not now a parent. There was too many situations like this, not even 10 more. But the kids of the people who are actually drinking, they don't care about the politics. Ukraine, Russia, I don't care. I'm just working on the ground. Just because the village people they have farms there. Some of them, they don't care about the politics and what's going on. What's going to change? Okay, I will use rubles rather than hryvnia. I don't care about that. There is some people like this, especially in villages, because it's a village, but not in a city. Because in a city, you cannot be I don't care about politics, because who else will be thinking about it if not you? Too many people, too many kids, they were deported. The parents, they don't know where they are now, and there is nothing that you can do about it.
Ukraine the Latest is an original podcast from The Telegraph, created by David Knowles. To support our work and stay on top of all of our Ukraine news, analysis and dispatches from the ground, please subscribe to The Telegraph. You can get 1 month free, then 2 months for just £1 at www.telegraph.co.uk/Ukraine the latest. Deploying cutting-edge technology, we also release Ukrainian and Russian versions of this podcast. These translations retain our voices and delivery so that it can reach listeners in every region of Ukraine and those parts of Eastern Europe where Russian is still widely spoken. Links to those can be found in the podcast description to this episode. You can also now sign up to the new Ukraine the Latest weekly newsletter. Each week, Dom Nichols and I answer your questions, provide recommended reading, and give exclusive analysis and behind-the-scenes insights, plus maps of the front lines and diagrams of weapons to complement our daily reporting. It's free for everyone, including non-subscribers. You can find the link to sign up in the descriptions for this episode. We regularly have a Ukraine Live blog on our website, where you can follow updates as they come in throughout the day, including insights from regular contributors to this podcast. We also do the same for other breaking international stories. If you appreciate our work, please consider following Ukraine the Latest on your preferred podcast app and leave us a review, as it really helps others find the show. Please also share it with those who may not be aware we exist. You can listen to this conversation live at 1 p.m. London time each weekday on X Spaces. Follow The Telegraph so that you don't miss it. You can also get in touch directly to ask questions or give comments by emailing ukrainepod@telegraph.co.uk. We continue to read every message. You can also contact us directly on X. You'll find our handles in the description for this episode. As ever, we're especially interested to hear where you're listening from around the world. Executive producers are Francis Dearnley, Louisa Wells, and David Knowles.
My name is David Knowles. Thank you all for listening. Goodbye.